Well, it has been a bit since we've seen this familiar face here on Primetime Local News. Stephanie Dobson is back with us. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me again, Stacey.
Well, Stephanie, you are a lawyer and mediator here in Lloydminster, in case some people have forgotten since the last time we had you on the show. And we are talking about divorce and separation. And we call it a healthy, thriving family after divorce. But we want to kind of start talking again about the process of people who are going through divorce and separation. Again, you had mentioned that January is International Divorce Month. So let's start out, by saying if somebody is actually considering this, going through separation or divorce, Stephanie, what is the first step?
Well, even the decision itself to separate is sometimes such a difficult decision. And what I encourage people to do is, as they're starting to consider or really getting to that end point of thinking they are going to separate, there's sort of 4 tips that I would suggest even as you start to get going on that train. So first, I would encourage you to do some research. So we know online, the Dr. Google is a big platform, but there's some really good resources out there if you really search for what you're looking for. So for example, if you're looking for respectful divorce, I recommend that over even just a search for something like divorce. In my e-learning platform, which some of you may be familiar with, it's called Up a Notch Learning. And that's one-stop shop where you can get lots and lots of positive and constructive information around separation and divorce. Another thing you can do inside Up a Notch Learning, I've got a whole bunch of book recommendations. So in there's over 80 books, which are divided into categories that you can kind of start looking into. The third thing is to find some supportive people. And that also means getting rid of those toxic people. So really trying to surround yourself by healthy people, and then also get in to see a lawyer early. They can really provide you some good information. I have a lot of people, especially in January, who are really looking for that preliminary information. They're still living together, but they just need a lay of the land of kind of what should I be looking for. And I always delve into what are some options that you have going forward. There's, litigation, mediation, collaborative divorce, all of these things that you can just start to process in your mind and putting it together.
So when someone reaches out to a law office to get information, what should they expect to get back from that office when they make their first inquiry?
Well, every law office is going to be different. I can certainly give some ways that we do it at our office. So most people will either start by a phone call or they'll come into us through our firm website. So for us on our website, we have either our email or we also have a contact form, and we have our live chat. We find that a lot of people go into our website and kind of really look at the how-to of how we do our divorce process. And I think that's really helpful when you're trying to contact a law office to know what you're looking for, what kind of firm you're looking for. So when you call in, you should expect to have to provide a little bit of basic information, your name, the other person, so your spouse's information, and that will help us do what's called a conflict check to see whether we're able to help you. And then we get your information, and we usually then book you in for an initial consultation.
So obviously the next step is that consultation, Stephanie. And when they come in for the consultation, what happens then?
So there's a couple things. So there's the consultation itself, and then there's the preparation for the consultation. So most offices, including ours, will have you fill out a questionnaire. So in that questionnaire, it will give you, of course, some of the basic details, but it also asks you some information about sort of what you're looking for and what kind of resolution you're looking for. And then there's some easy information like, we need your valid photo ID. And then there might be some information that we specifically request for you. So for example, if you have a draft agreement or you have a spreadsheet of your assets and debts, we may specifically request that kind of information ahead of time. Now, once you get into the consultation, in my consultations, I divide it into 3 parts. So the first part is sort of the long part. It's getting into your story. So what's going on from your perspective? There's certain pillars that you would normally go into. So parenting, finances, and property division. And so in my case, I would be asking you about all of those types of topics and see how things are going and what you and your spouse have talked to so far. Then we would talk about the negotiation process. Most people don't think about that when they go into their separation. So how am I going to divorce? Do I want to use mediation, collaborative divorce, litigation? What works for me? So I talk to you about what that means and how the process that you may have chosen will work. And then we set up our next steps. I always like to have you leave with an action plan. You'll call me, you're going to need to think about it. You would like me to follow up with you in a couple of weeks or whatever that might look like, so that you have a really clear picture going forward.
Well, Stephanie, there is so much that is involved with this process. And as you mentioned at the beginning, people can go to your website to get even just the basics to start. So can you give me the information for how people reach the website, so they can find all of this if they have all these questions going on about how to get started?
Sure. You can go to our law firm website, which is Henka Divorce, HENKA divorce.ca, or the e-learning platform Up a Notch Learning that I mentioned during our episode today is upanotchlearning.com.
All right, Stephanie, well, it's nice to have you back, and we will chat with you again next week, helping people again through this process of separation and divorce.
Perfect. Thanks, Stacey.